Hey guys, what's going on? We're going to do this live Strong Life video cast. Phil Daru will be hopping on hopefully this time. He was busy training another client. During that time, man, I crushed a new blog post, and I get so inspired during certain times, and this was one of those times. Lately, I've been doing a lot of my writing not on the blog, but more in like a private manner, sending out just the emails to my newsletter from zachevanish.com, and it has been awesome. And then sometimes I get this gut instinct to expand upon it, and you guys are going to love you are going to love the latest blog post. So it's titled Strength Lessons from 1957 and the 90s. So very excited when you guys go and check that out, and waiting for Phil to hop on, and hopefully he makes it. We're going to make this happen. Gabriel, what's happening? TJ, Old Breed. We got a lot of familiar faces here. Coach Daryl in the house. Phil is on. Phil, do a request to jump in. Here we go, buddy. See if I could do this. Phil's going to jump on. Here. Hopefully my voice remains intact during this time we're connecting.
Yo!
Yes! Phil is in the house. Guys, I love modern technology.
I didn't think we could ever do this. I thought this was like something that was supposed to be done in maybe 2030 or something like that. But
well, whenever this happens, I remind people the end of my freshman year in high school, like May or June of 1990, the movie came out with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Total Recall. And in the movie, they're talking to one of the guys through a phone, and you see the guy's face. And I said, hey, guys, in the future, we're gonna see faces. So I always remind people, I predicted the future.
You know what? I'm not doing Skype anymore. We're gonna do this. It's gonna just be
this is so much more convenient. So I know you've got some limited time, and were you training people out of your facility or out of American Top Team?
Yeah, so today usually I'm at my private facility. It's like a little bit up north from Coconut Creek where I train at ATT. But yeah, private's there. I have some high school athletes. I also have just general public that I've been working with for probably about 3 years now. So it's pretty good. It gets me away from the daily grind of working with the athletes, and actually I get to train regular people at some point. It just gives me a good a background to really do things from a different perspective.
Yeah, people were asking on the when I went live like 30, 45 minutes ago, people ask all the time, actually, and I've done the recent podcast with gym owners because guys like us get into it and we just want to train athletes.
Yeah.
And so many people have reached out to me from near and far, from the country, from out of the country, where that was their goal. And they tell me they train 95% adults, and I try to explain that, listen, at the high school level, those kids have these mandatory workouts where they have to train in the weight room. The coach wants to see them. But I always give the flip side, and I say, guess who the best athletes I ever trained were? I say, it was the kid that lifted at school. Then he would go and do like sprints on the soccer field, pull-ups on the goalpost, or they would play pickup basketball. And then they would train. They would train multiple workouts. My daughter just signed on Summer. And
Nice.
We're going to be in your area in, I think we're going down, late March, because my daughter goes to that tennis, so we stay at the hotel next to ATT.
Man, you can come down and we got to get a workout in too.
Absolutely, man. That's going to be great. So, just talking about that, let's talk about that, Phil. Like, I love getting into the what it takes and what it takes to be great. So you're working with pro fighters. You're working with high school athletes. I know that people see your videos and they probably say, man, he's training all the best. But I tell people, don't paint a picture on us from the 1 minute you see, because we've also trained who could have potentially been the best, but they sabotaged it. And oftentimes it was because they didn't follow through on certain things. So, in your mind, what are some of the what it takes to be great things that you explain to a high school athlete, a pro fighter, and even these adults you work with?
You know what? Even with successful people, because I have a lot of doctors and lawyers that I do train, and they're highly successful people in general. Business standpoint, too, I have highly successful business owners that I also train. And even with the professional athletes, what I've noticed is that, and the same with me and the same with yourself, Zach, is that it's constantly trying to better themselves, whether it be learning something new, you know, trying to better themselves as in, you know, learning a new task or having a new experience every day, you know, and also making sure that they're constantly evolving and getting better in their craft, and doing that by working as hard as possible, but also making sure that they maintain a little bit of balance in their daily life, so they do not actually go ahead and get stale and you know, want to basically not want to do what they're supposed to be doing. If they can switch things up a bit and also maintain a level of just progression, that's always a key for me that I've seen.
I would say, like, the thing that really attracted me to your work was, okay, I see a guy who's training fighters, but I see you evolving. So I think, I can't remember how I came across your work, but probably on Instagram. And I'm like, look at Phil. Like, if we see the majority of, like, MMA training videos, we see them just thrashing the athlete. But I see you doing breathing. You're doing functional range training with them. And you just said you're evolving. And that's something that's actually on my mind a lot. Is I'm like, okay, I need to get to a point where I learn more to keep myself growing, to evolve. And you've been training people for a while, and you've seen how athletes and human beings in general have de-evolved. So we get better as coaches, or we really can't help them. There's just almost like too much stuff we have to fix on them. And I love, you seem like you've got a very holistic approach, but I love what I see, because like I said, normally if I see somebody training an MMA fighter, they're just kind of trying to kill the person. It's like sled, tire flip, sledgehammer. It tends to be that, whereas it looks like you understand that training has many facets under the total umbrella of training.
For sure. And you know what? And somebody asked me this actually on Instagram, and they asked me, like, what was like my drive, and what do I feel like has made me quote unquote successful and at being a strength coach, or just being able to train these high level fighters. And to be honest, man, I try to learn something new almost every day. You know, at least one thing brand new that I can put into my arsenal, into my toolkit, to make me a better coach, to make me a better athlete, to make me a better person, a better father, whatever it is, I try to do. And Zach, man, like, I follow your stuff and I love your stuff with the motivation that you do, with what you're doing with those kids. And basically, I took a lot from you as well. You know, I mean, learning and always evolving is a key factor. But also, just, it doesn't have to be something crazy. It could be just one simple thing that you learn every day to get about 1% better. And everybody knows that now, you know?
Yeah. I got two questions for you. I'll just go one at a time. You know, with MMA fighters and high-level athletes in general, I remember Louis Simmons saying this about Kevin Randleman. He always said, you know, wrestlers and fighters, they're eccentric. They're kind of crazy. Yeah. So doing, you know, the training had to be unique. And sometimes nowadays, especially with the many different coaches out there, we now hear some MMA fighters saying, well, I don't believe in lifting. And, you know, you have all these different kind of methods. And I'm never one to be so extreme to say no lifting, or only power lift, or only conjugate style. So what are some of the ways that you've been able to educate maybe a fighter who was brought to you, who maybe didn't really believe in training outside of the skills and the sparring?
Yeah, so I never really want to live in absolutes. I think if you do that, you kind of limit yourself. So I do make sure that we get a wide verse of different type of modalities inside that training, in this training phase, and even into camp. But like, a lot of my guys now kind of buy into the system. They understand that I'm not just going out there trying to be or make them a bodybuilder or a power lifter or a weightlifter. We're doing things that are functionally capable to transferring over into the sport. And what I do is I make sure that I that I tell them why we're doing it and why it'll actually help them in the sport that they're doing, especially with MMA. The good thing about what I can bring to the table is that I've actually fought, and I fought at a high level, and I fought for a long time. So when I do this, but I'm a strength guy. You know, I've lifted weights all the way up since I was 12. You know, so did it in college, and then I was I had a big strength and conditioning background. Even when I was fighting, I was doing a lot of weightlifting, and they didn't really understand that. But I was never getting slower. And if you look at some of my pad work now, I'm like 40 pounds heavier, but I'm still quick. I still got a little bit of speed on
I don't want to get punched by you when I see that.
But you see what I'm saying? So you have to train diligently, but you have to make sure that you have a scientific approach. There's principles there, but also making sure that you're adapting to the situations and subjective to the individual. So if they're a jiu-jitsu guy, I have to make sure that they are priming their body to do what they do best. If they're a striker, same thing. But also we want to generally make them a better athlete. We can make them a better athlete by getting them stronger, getting them faster, getting them more powerful. Then it's just going to carry over into being a better fighter. And that's what we want to do.
Right. And I've seen you doing a lot of sprint work and jump work, and almost like it's really inspired me to bring that into my one facility where I have the turf, because I feel like I don't work, with so many high-level athletes. The majority of athletes that come to us, they want to become high-level. Yeah. And I found that we might learn through the internet about advanced methods, but then you get these kind of, very novice athletes. They can't really box jump. They don't know how to explode through a jump. And I watch you doing a lot of sprinting from different positions. So I'm doing that at least once a week with our athletes, because I find it's the simplest form of power and speed and explosive power development. So who have been some of your influences in that aspect of your training? Or was it more of like you just kind of brought it in and experimented with it?
Well, I mean, I take a lot from everybody. I take a lot from you as well. I mean, Joe DeFranco obviously was one big key component. A lot from Louis, and as far as like the sprint work, I think I got a lot of that from college, per se. And then when
Where did you go to college?
I went to Alabama State, played college football. So
are you from Alabama or Florida?
Not from Florida. I'm from Florida. Got the scholarship there. It's funny, man. My high school team was stacked. I went to Deerfield Beach High School. Jason Pierre-Paul played on my team. We had a couple of guys that play in the Arena League now. So, I mean, my high school team, there's like 2 or 3 that played in the NFL, and then I got a bunch that play in the Arena League. So we were kind of stacked there. But yeah, it was just taking those things and then transferring them over into sport-specific movements that I would do in the cage, where it's a lot more of lateral components and change of direction, multi-direction type speed work.
Love it.
That actually carry over. And the good thing about it was I've had a martial arts background, and also that I boxed when I was in college. I have an amateur boxing background too. So learning how to move in certain ways inside the ring, inside the cage, I just carried it over into what I did when I was in college and in high school, learning from my strength coach there. And then it just kind of just evolved, and then I kind of think, okay, well, this might work, and this can carry over pretty well. And I know how to cut angles, so let me work this specific, let me work the adductors so I can make sure that I'm being as elusive as possible, or getting them guys and the girls to be as elusive as possible inside the cage. And that's what I've done.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Our one of my facilities up in North Jersey is in it's basically like a martial arts facility. So we have Vitor Shaolin does the jiu-jitsu upstairs. We have high-level boxing coaches. We have high-level wrestling club, and then we've got the underground in there. And because of the time of the kids wrestling and lifting, they miss out, and I really encourage them to box. But what they did in the summertime was they did like a short submission wrestling. So Vitor taught submission wrestling, kind of like catch wrestling.
Yeah.
Got some of the wrestlers in. I feel like even for my kids, I want my son to box. He plays baseball, he wrestles, and I just feel like those hands are crucial. My daughter plays tennis, which is huge down by you in that Boca area. Yeah. And, basically I see those kids like when I'm always, you know, the strength coach mind is like you're looking at people and you're like, oh, if that kid's hamstrings were like stronger, like you could just assess the physique.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking, I'm like, those kids should just drag sleds. They don't need to sprint if they just played 2 hours. So you're always, you know, thinking about that stuff. What's interesting is I know Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, and Texas, they tend to have strength coaches in the high schools that are, it's certainly ahead of like the Northeast here. They have, especially in the Carolinas, I found that they've had like, you know, collegiate, you know, experienced strength coaches in the high school. So they take it a little more seriously. Have you found it difficult to get high school kids to your gym? Are you getting more middle school kids?
You know, in my region where I'm at, especially up north more, I'm about an hour away from Broward and Coconut Creek where the American Top Team is. There's not a lot of strength and conditioning gyms per se. We have a lot of powerlifting gyms. We have a lot of like boot camp style gyms, but there's nothing as far as sports performance goes. And I mean, just for the simple fact that I've been here for a pretty long time now, I've been here for probably 8 years. And I started at like an 800 square foot box. It was like, it was next to like all like mechanics and like things were just going on crazy. It was on the sidewalk. It was crazy stuff, man. And then from there, I grew to like a 1,600 square foot, you know, facility. And then from there, about 6 months later, we ended up blowing up because it's just a small town and it went to 11,000 square feet. And at that time, yeah, and I had trust me, I have no business background whatsoever. I'm all, you know, I went to college, I played football, you know, I got a science background, but let's face it, my main degree was trying to make it to the NFL. Like that was my, you know, so I'm sitting there and I'm a 21, 22-year-old kid, like trying to tell these grown people what to do. And I had 7 trainers that I had under me. But what it did was it got me able to get out to the environment and, you know, to the community and actually talk about what I do for the athletes. And then I got one high school kid that blew up, went to college, went to the NFL. You know, unfortunately, he got cut. But like I said, that trickles down. You get all the college, you know, all his college teammates and all his high school teammates, his younger brothers. So that's the main thing is just kind of getting, I think if you're a strength coach and you're trying to start off with, you know, your simple, just, you know, and it could be simple. And you know this, Zach. We can make it, you can get a squat rack, a couple dumbbells, a barbell, and a sled, and you're good to go. You know, and you could even be, you don't even have that. Like I had a tire, you know, with a rope on it. That's all, you know what I mean? So, and a sledgehammer and a monster tire, and we were making it happen. So, and, you know, but the case of the matter is that, like, you just want, all you need to do is change one kid's life and really show them how to do things. And that's going to make sure, that's going to get people interested. That's going to make people want to come to you. And I think that that's for any strength coach out there that wants to have these high school athletes, these college or these, you know, middle school, man, get out there and just find you a couple of kids that are dedicated and ready to achieve excellence and be successful and follow what you tell them, and you're going to be good to go.
Our friend Mutahar follows us. I believe he's in Iran, I think. And big-time wrestler, always training with the guys. So it's really cool to see how people follow from all around the world. Let me ask you this, because you're very busy. This is a big question I get from the strength coaches that are also family men. What does your day look like? Because you're doing the travel to your spot plus American Top Team. Plus, I see you getting busy in your own training. You're not, you know, losing your edge. And I found that a lot of coaches, it's like it takes away from them. So I see you training very hard. I'm not sure if you got a meet coming up soon. So what is your day? Talk to us about what your day looks like.
Well, I guess just like any other real strength coach in general, our days, we wake up, it's dark out, and we go home, it's dark out, you know, pretty much. And every moment in between, a lot of the times, and Zach, like I said, I'm sorry, man, I would have got on here an hour ago, but everything just goes crazy and haywire at some point.
It's all good.
You know, it's like you have to make sure you schedule your time out properly. If you don't, it's very hard to keep up. And for me, I'm traveling a lot. I'm doing multiple seminars now, pretty much all over the world. And also making sure that I'm getting all of my athletes taken care of, getting my privates taken care of, my clients. And then also making sure that I'm showing up to soccer games and bringing my son to jiu-jitsu and doing these things with them and making sure I have time to spend with my wife. I think the main thing is, like I said, is really just scheduling out what you need to do and making sure that you make every little bit of time throughout that day count. And every minute counts in that day. If you're doing something that you know that's not going to help you progress you or spend time with your family, that quality time, then it's kind of useless time. You know what I'm saying? So every moment of every day needs to be something of use. And that's pretty much what I try to do.
Discipline, right? It's like that. It's like the discipline to know that, okay, I am not going to work past this hour because when I get home, I'm going to be dad, I'm going to be husband, and I could be there, right? But if I'm on my phone and all this crap, and I tell you, through the years, I've gotten really good at making sure that I'm done working when I get home. Not all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to do it. And you know what? Sometimes that's good for your kids to see dad or mom going above and beyond, normal, because I try to really hit home to my kids about work ethic, that is the separating factor. Even, you were at Alabama, which is #1 football team in the country, right?
No, not Alabama, not Crimson Tide, Alabama State.
Alabama State's up there too, right? Yeah. So it's like, and even the athletes that I work with, I try to explain to them, I go, guys, sometimes I think you're selling yourself short, meaning you work your faces off, but you may not be the most talented. But I know a lot of talented, lazy athletes, and no coach likes that. It catches up to them, and they do get beat out. And also I tell them, I go, you're 18 or 19. If you stop now, you haven't even scratched the surface of your potential, especially with now you're going to be at school, you're going to be fed, you're going to mandatory lifting, it's organized, you're not missing it, you don't rely on mom or dad to drive you there, you're walking to there. Even though some of those, I think some of the athletes have a misconception. They think at the Division I level, everybody's doing all the work, but kids are kids and they need to be managed. And that work ethic, I believe, is such a determining factor in the good to greatness separation.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have skill for sure, but it's even better to have will. And I think it's having the will to succeed, but also having the will to get things done and doing it consistently. Like I said, that one thing, like for me, learning one thing every day. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. Trust me. By far, I will not be. I think I got maybe, I want to say, and don't quote me on this because I don't even remember because I had so many questions probably. I fucking forgot anyways. But I think I may have got like maybe like a 1,000 to 1,100 on the SATs. Now that's okay. And to be honest, I think I may have just guessed on a lot of them, on a lot of the answers. So I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I got guys that I work with that are colleagues of mine that are PhDs, and they, but for me, I think what separates me from them is one is obviously, knowing the sport in general, being there and having the real world application, having the experience, but also by far, I will be the hardest worker in that damn room every time. And that's the reality.
Yeah, you're I may have been The Rock that said it. I've heard it so many times, but they say the thing you're always in control of is your work ethic.
Yeah.
You're always in control of it. And, you being in MMA and me really being in the wrestling world, I'm always like, well, that freshman just came and beat a 2-time defending national champ because he just decided that he doesn't care who's across from him. Yep. He's coming for the title. And my thing is, I say, success is not an accident. People don't accidentally become the best. There's a lot of, things done. This book, I don't know, you've probably read this book. Have you read the book Relentless by Tim Grover?
No, I have to though.
Oh my God. So,
Yeah.
he works with a lot of the basketball players, but he talks about like, I think Brandon Lilly posted this, like during like the NBA draft, all the guys who got drafted, they went out and like celebrated and partied, but
Mm.
Kobe Bryant gets drafted and goes to the gym. Or he spoke about how, an NBA guy has a bad game, their team wins, but the guy didn't play well. He gets on a private plane, flies to Chicago, works with Tim until 3 or 4 in the morning in the private basketball gymnasium, then goes home. He don't need to announce it. He just works. And Tim Grover calls it like you're a cleaner. Like you show up when everybody else won't show up. You're in early, you're there late, and as people will say, hey, that's crazy. But
Yeah.
nobody who achieved anything big was normal.
No. And that's the thing, is that you get these guys like a Michael Jordan, for instance, and that's, I mean, obviously we beat that to death with, but his work ethic, and even LeBron James with the amount of talent he has, trust me, he didn't get to where he's at now as being the best without putting a little bit of work ethic in there. So that's primarily. Hold on one second, Zach. I'm about to charge my phone because we're about to go out of.
Well, we'll close it out here in a minute or two, but if look at like. I bet you if we could speak to Kyle Snyder, we would say, hey, Kyle, is it good to skip your workouts? Is it good to party on Friday night? He'd be like, hell's no. I wake up, I have my protein shake, I lift. Then I train. He lives the samurai life. And when I look at the kids who are achieving the most success, they're doing a lot of little things great. And the people who are almost great, they're like, I'll drink a little bit. Whatever they do, they're doing something wrong. That's a piece of the puzzle that when done correctly, it's that compound effect of being great.
Yeah. I mean, the margin of error is small, and cannot slip up. If you're really trying to be the best that you can be. And I mean, there's been times where, I've had the opportunity, even when I was cutting weight for fights, and we're talking Thanksgiving, man. And this is something that I had to do. And this was like even in amateurs when I wasn't even getting paid. And even if I didn't make weight, it wouldn't be a big deal. But for me, I want to go the extra mile. I want to make sure that I'm on point and I'm a professional, even when I was an amateur.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have that extra, the extra side, or I'm not going to have, some more turkey because I know that that's going to make my weight, drastically drop or increase. So I do things like that. Not so much because I have to, but for my mindset, to make me understand that I have to go the extra miles to make sure that I'm successful.
It's like, Stephen Pressfield calls that turning pro.
Yes.
Turning pro. So that's the truth. So we'll close out here. Everybody listening, I'm going to try to get this audio. Hopefully it all gets properly recorded. But Phil is at Daru Strong, Daru Strong, Instagram, Twitter, and that's also the website, correct?
Yep, that's it.
I know a lot of people are reaching out to you probably through Instagram for like seminars and stuff so they could DM you. I know you were in Poland. Were you just in Poland?
I was in Russia. In Russia recently, yeah. And I'll be in Poland in June.
That's what it is.
I'll be doing a seminar in Vancouver in March. I have a seminar this weekend in Atlanta, if you want to check that out. Also, I have a seminar in LA in April with TJ Nessler and Dan Gardner. That'll be at the Muscle Farm HQ out in LA. And then back to Russia again in July. So pretty busy, but
but just going for it, right? Making it happen instead of waiting for it to happen.
Pretty much, that's it.
Cool, man. Well, Phil, I appreciate you. Oh, let's do this one last question. It says, Phil, do you see that question or only me? It says, I train Muay Thai and BJJ. Do you think you could build a good level of strength only with body weight training?
Well, it does depend. Obviously, you will gain more absolute strength with maximum load. But if you're just trying to maintain strength, if you're trying to be, explosive, have explosive power, you can get a solid level of strength with just doing body weight exercises. You want to make sure that you're getting some overload. So I would try to get maybe like a weight vest or some ankle weights or something like that. And even you can just if you don't have any weights, you can, like I said, find a tire, put some sand in there, and just drag it around, making sure that you're getting some type of motor unit recruitment and building up more solid tissue so you can be as explosive or more explosive using the strength that you gained. So yes, you can, but it's more optimal if you would find more external load.
Right. I agree. So I would say, okay, you know, first I'd be like, why are you limiting yourself to just body weight? Sometimes we get so, you know, down this one lane. So if you're just going to go body weight, let's go weighted pull-ups, weighted dips. But then I know you're about kind of like caring for the body. Then we got to make sure we're doing face pulls and pull aparts and working those smaller muscles that get neglected when we're only doing big lifts. I'm a big believer in, you know, if I said I want to see carries, I want to see sleds and, you know, calisthenics. Those are kind of the basics. And then, you know, listen, a stone. I mean, there's so many ways pushing your truck. So instead of saying, hey, is this the only way? Let's look at it and say, what is the best way that I can keep moving forward? And if finances are an issue, you've always got the outdoors, picking up stones, pushing a car, making your own sled from a tire. So rather than limiting yourself, find a way to just go beyond. So we'll close it out at that. Everybody listening, hopefully I get this up on YouTube. This is the first time doing like a dual video cast on Instagram. And Phil, I had a blast, my man. Appreciate you, bro.
Appreciate you, man. I look up to you a lot. Thank you for everything you're doing, man. And let's do it again soon, okay?
Absolutely. Talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
All right.